Meeting order. Please stand for pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Here.
Mrs. King?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Mr. Schuler?
Here.
Mr. Tinkin?
Here.
Mr. Borbeck?
Here.
Mayor McCann?
Here. Open Public Meeting Act statement. Pursuant to the requirements of the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice filed in the office of the Borough Clerk, posted on the Borough website, and on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Published as a legal notice in the Co-Star newspaper, and mailed to those requesting notice and providing payment in the newspaper with accordance with the borough policy. Need a motion to approve the agenda and a second.
I'll make that motion.
Mayor, pardon the interruption, I just want to make sure we're approving the revised that I left for everyone, which was adding the presentation and changing two numbers on the list of the minutes.
I'll make that motion with the revisions.
You also have to add in the additional resolution.
I'm sorry, yeah.
You have to add in the additional resolution,
And
the one on the yellow paper, everybody got that?
Regarding the Chevy Tahoe.
That's 137, resolution R 2015-137.
137. Okay. All right, so that is a revised agenda with the presentation, the new resolution, and Janine, what are the other ones?
I had initially the May 29th, 2012. Initially, I think it was a different day there. The numeric day I had was the 26th. And July 23rd, I initially had 2015. It's July 23rd, 2012.
Thank you.
So someone needs to make a motion with those additions.
I'll make that motion.
No second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, now we will run through the minutes. And I want to thank Janine for having these, and also who's eligible to vote on here as well. It's very, very helpful. Thank you. Well, the first one will be May 14th. Let me make sure I got the right sheet here. May 14th, 2012, the executive session. Need a motion and a second.
Make that motion.
Second it.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Abstain.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Abstain.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Abstain.
Mr. Borbeck?
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Thank you. This will be the May 14th, 2012, the regular session. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Abstain.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Abstain.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Abstain.
Mr. Borbeck?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. This will be the May 29th, 2012, regular session. May 29th, 2012, regular session. Need a motion and a second.
Make that motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Abstain.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Abstain.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Abstain.
Mr. Borbeck?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. This will be the July 23rd, 2012, the executive and regular session. Need a motion and a second.
Make that motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Abstain.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Abstain.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin, you have to abstain.
Oh, abstain now, sorry.
Mr. Borbeck?
And I'm going to abstain because I was late for the executive session, so I'd rather just simply abstain.
Okay,
We'll move things along.
thank you.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
This will be the August 20th, 2012, the executive and regular session. Need a motion and a second, please.
Motion.
I'll second.
Do you have any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Abstain.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Abstain.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Abstain.
Mr. Borback?
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Give me 1 second, Janine.
Sure.
September 10th.
July 13th, correct?
No, September 10th, 2012.
Oh, okay. September 10th, 2012, executive and record.
Make
Need a
that
motion
motion.
and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Abstain.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Abstain.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Abstain.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, the July 13th executive session. Need a motion and a second.
2015.
I'll make that motion.
2015, is that what I said?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Need a
I'll make that motion.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Abstain.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borback?
And I will abstain for, because I was tardy to the executive session.
July 13th, 2015 regular session. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that
Second?
motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Abstain.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borback?
A little confused with it.
This is the July 13th, 2015.
Public session, yes.
Okay. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I believe this is the last one, correct, Janine?
Yes.
Okay, July 20th, 2015 special meeting. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Abstain.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Abstain.
Mr. Borback?
This was only last week, I remember. Yes.
You're better than most of us, though.
Motion passes. We're all
Thank you.
done with minutes.
You must have wrote it down.
Thank you for that, Janine.
That's great.
At this time, we have a presentation by Ms. Nancy Padick from the Environmental Commission. She was going to give a little presentation on the tree preservation. Okay, you have something to say first? No? Okay, wait a minute. You may step forward, Nancy.
Hello, everyone.
And thank you for being
Mayor
here.
Mataco and members of council, thank you for serving for our community, because I know it takes a lot of work. And better do than me sitting out there. I just came to talk a little bit about, what's been going on with the Environmental Commission and the Borough and the park, and make sure, I really believe, and this is at our Environmental Commission meeting when Jay and Joe presented the tree reforestation or tree preservation plan to remove dead, decayed, and dying trees from Allaire Road Park, which is, a great opportunity. I mean, we need to, for 60 years, basically, almost 60 years, we kind of went, it'll take care of itself. Well, it did. Sandy did, and it kind of helped us move it along and make everybody take a good, strong look at, what we should, we need a plan. We need a maintenance plan, a long-term maintenance plan. So, in order to move forward, the first thing we need to do is get the bad stuff out, look at what's left, and then reforest. Now, if my memory serves me correctly, because I was at the meetings where we talked about the park and which way we were going to go with the new fields, soccer fields and whatnot, I believe I'm correct. We're using these fields here, which is why we're giving the money to the school to maintain these fields. And it's funny because every time I'm over there, I could be in 7-Eleven and bump into somebody, and you bring up Allaire Road Park, and the first thing they say is, "We are so lucky to have my kids are so lucky to have played ball in that park, and I grew up in that park. My dad was on council when they bought that property. I remember doing the parade to the first park when they opened it. I'm sure you remember too, Butch. And my kids played in that park, and I was shack captain for many years over there, cooking hot dogs and hamburgers, and every night I had my binoculars at the back door, and every kid in that park knew they could come, and they could use my binoculars, and we'd watch the hawks and watch the owls, and they'd learn about whatever's there. And anymore, you can't even walk in the grove. The poison ivy is off the charts, you know, and you know, I want it to go back, and I'm sure everybody wants it to go back, so we can walk in there, so we can have a Little League at the Easter egg hunt in there. You know, how do you put up a sign that says beware? You know what I mean? Don't touch the poison ivy when you grab your egg. You know, we owe it to ourselves, you know, to move forward, and we work a reforestation program. You know, the Fletcher tract is open again. There are, now I'm going to pass these out. Jade was, I think there's some extras out. You know, this is the Fletcher tract, which everybody knows. The Fletcher tract looks great. You know, there was just so much overgrown, so many things there. And of course, it's still a project in the making. You know, there's big trees left, and there's got to be a lot of under canopy left. There's buffers to be built. There's community gardens to go in, and the parking area to be done, fences to be moved, you know, mulch to be brought in, but it's not something we're going to do overnight. That's the existing plan that I think you've seen, and some of these are just updates of what's happened with either fencing and or proposed, you know, the parking area. Right now it's just the old Fletcher House little tiny area which you can park and walk in. So at our Environmental Commission, we heard the presentation. We did have people talk about wildlife and talking about baby owls being over there. So since there was no proof, I took it upon myself that I would go find out if there were owls over there. And there are indeed a family of great horned owls that were, and the more people that knew that they were there and found out that I was there with binoculars showing people, it's magnificent. If you've never seen a great horned owl feed her young, it is amazing. It's wonderful rodent control, and it's pretty. And they actually nested in the Western Grove over, you know, so it literally out in right field, in that grove back there, the great horned owl nest is at the top of one of those old white pines. And as the young get older, they literally climb down the tree during the day, and they go to another tree, and they go all over the park. And at night, the minute dusk hits over there, you could watch the adults fly out and get mice, rabbits, rats, and bring them back and feed those babies that can not fly, but they're this tall. You know, and it's amazing that, you know, the kids at Little League would be over there and be like, what are you looking at? And they, oh my God. Like, we have such a treasure, you know, we have a wonderful treasure. So of course I keep telling Jay, well, you gotta watch the tree. You gotta watch the tree. No, they have fledged now, you know, they can fly. But I think that the point is that we wanna always be aware of, you know, what is there. So having said all those things, I think that now, you know, the trees are coming down. We did talk about, and Chris, we talked about the well. Yeah. And so I had brought in a couple of local landscape contractors to do some of the buffer work, because part of the plan is that in the back of Fletcher, on the western side of Fletcher, around the bend, as you go to the back of the Little League field, that we would put back about a 30-foot buffer, give or take a little bit, onto the residential neighborhoods to help contain the light and the noise. And since the Fletcher property is cleared, I will tell you in the back there, it is a lot noisier from Allaire Road. I never realized Allaire Road was so loud. So those are the two areas that we brought in people to look at, and they're working on some prices for us. Of course, you have to beg because they all want to do a plan for $2,500, but we'll give you your money back when you hire us. Well, it doesn't work like that, in a municipality. But we do have somebody giving us, a local contractor, a nice free plan. The final is not in. because last week, well, one of the things I stopped him on was, we were hoping, Monmouth County Shade Tree Commission got 100 white pines from a gentleman out in Cream Ridge. So Ken Thompson of Monmouth County Shade Tree was kind enough to go out to Cream Ridge and look at them to see, nobody gives away anything for nothing. There's always, what does he want, what does he need out of it, is he gonna develop or whatever. So the cost for us was free, but the cost for us through Monmouth County is expensive. It's about $500 for 3 trees, is that correct, Jay? It's about $500 for 3 trees?
Correct.
Yeah. So, Monmouth County Shade Tree's recommendation is it would be cheaper for us to go wholesale for the trees that we need, bring them in, and we get a 1-year warranty on them, and we can pick the exact stock we want instead of going and digging up, something that's free. It might give us a bigger headache than it's worth. Which was, great that the county offers that program. Of course, I tried to get the county to do it for free. I said, you're double dipping, I already pay you, but that didn't go very well. So we're back to, going with native species, a lower canopy, mid canopy, and a higher canopy. We've retained some of the tall growth trees. So hopefully we'll, in the next month or so, we'll be able to bring to the council a plan of doing some of that buffer work in there. We also, the well, John Cummings, all the landscape contractors use the same gentleman from Neptune. He does all the wells. I spoke with him, really nice guy. Jay and Joe met with him last week, and he gave us 2 prices. And one is the shallow aquifer, one is a deep aquifer. The deep aquifer is going to give us a lot more water over the long run for an extra $2,000. The biggest problem is the iron in the water, and the iron in the water will discolor, so people in residential properties tend to not like it. It can turn your driveway that rusty color. At the park, do we care? The only concern is the Little League signs in the outfield, but more to be revealed. Are the sprinklers facing away? Could we put up some kind of move the sprinklers to accommodate, a deep aquifer? Because the deep aquifer would do the entire park. It would do everything. The East Grove, the West Grove, Fletcher, and the Little League field, which is, like you talked about at the meeting, it's a fantastic plan for $6,800.
It's brilliant for not having to pay for purified water or treated water to be put in for irrigation. That's a great idea.
Exactly. So I really think that, I said to Jay tonight, I said, iron, I really think that where there's a will, there's a way. We can come up with a way, whether we move the sprinklers for Little League or come up with a way that we can do it. It's just a matter of, I really would love the council's input beside the Environmental Commission. It's such a project that it begs for transparency and participation by the council, by the public, by the people who live here and use it. So like everything, even like the well, it's, I think it's great. One of the tree men, because the poison ivy is so bad over there, I did not go into poison ivy areas, but I got poison ivy from my knees to my toes walking through the grass of Fletcher. It was bad. The next tree guy, landscape guy, said to me, I see the ivy, I see the poison ivy growing through the grass. It's a problem. You need to treat it. You need to treat it everywhere. It's big. Now, the plan, and Jay is going to talk to the contractor at the pre-construction meeting for the tree removal, because they do talk in there, the RFP talks at length about the process called grubbing, where they go in and they take away now I do believe I had asked Janine, you all have the RFP which talks about what the contractor is going to do, remove the trees, remove the vines. Yes, that's it. They're going to inspect aerially all the trees. My biggest concern is if we're going to go and do all this, that Mike Matthews, the guy from Seeger, for $3,000, after they go and do the trees, and like Jay said, let's see what it looks like. But I would love the council to say for $3,000, he'll go in and treat every piece of poison ivy left. Then he goes back. And I can, Jay actually has a copy of this also, but he goes back in 50 to 60 days, and he retreats anything that is growing again. And then he will come back in the spring, and we would, you know, if we need to rehire him, he is local. He will also is willing to train our public works guys. But he figures at this point for his price, it's about 35 hours for his men. You know, a team of 4. No, it's 35 hours total to go do it. I think it's well worth it. I think that we are trying to make a park that is pedestrian friendly, user friendly, wildlife friendly. We want people and families to go over there. You know, whether you walk, you jog, you picnic, you play ball. I would just love to see us deal with it, you know, because the more we pretend it's going to go away.
And by treating it, you mean with some sort of herbicide?
Yeah, the only way to truly get rid of poison ivy is to eradicate it with a pesticide.
Okay.
And Mike Matthews is for sure weed control. His company is in Bricktown. He lives in Europe. He works for municipalities all up and down the coast, and he is licensed to do public lands.
So is there a period of time after it's treated that kids can't be back there, or?
No. Actually, he said he will post signs. What they do is they post signs. But I said to him, do we need to like close the park? He said, oh no, absolutely not.
Okay.
They do not do any kind of application where they shoot anything into the air, into a tree. It would all be direct application onto the plant itself and a process called tipping. So if, you know, we did our tree removal project and that's going along great, and then he came in and we found poison ivy growing on trees and shrubs that we were keeping. They go in and they have 10 seconds once they cut to tip it with this special herbicide that will kill the poison ivy growing up. It will die, and then we can pull it down because the oil is no longer viable. He also, you know, said he'll come to the meeting and talk to you. He's very knowledgeable. He said the best part is that we take down the trees first and they grub. Because once they grub, they're going to go down to dirt. He said when he's done, it looks like there was a fire. And he said, and it looks that way for about 2 weeks. I said, but if people understand in the long run, we're doing this to make this, you know, it's a health hazard at this point, you know. I'm not complaining because I got it.
No, you're not the only one.
Oh, I'm sure I'm not the only one. But I am so aware of it, and I was being so cautious and just walking through the grass. But like he said, every time you cut the grass, now you have a piece of poison ivy, you cut it, now you have 2. You cut it again, you got 4, you cut it again, you have 8, and it keeps quadrupling and multiplying as you go. So, you know, it's, look, maybe it's a pipe dream, but for $3,000 for him to treat after we're done, 2 times this fall, and then we go back at it in the spring for anything that's left, it makes it so we can use the park, you know, all aspects of the park. And I called him today and went like this, is that $3,000 for like now? And he was like, yeah, twice. I was like, okay then, I can say that? And he's like, yeah, you can say that. Because I think that's a great price. You know, and I hate to see our guys here in Public Works jeopardize themselves going to try to combat anything that's left. You know, because this is what they do, you know. So I'd love to have your, you know, the council's blessing on eradicating poison ivy. If we could do that. Do the trees. And other than that, I think, oh, I'm going to show you this, but it's probably not going to make a lot of sense. I'm sorry it's not bigger or better, and we can just pass it down. And Peg Milchion would be happy. This is the back. This is my rendition for the landscape, because originally we didn't have any, the site plans. The site plans are so big. So this basically are the 2 areas. So this is the back corner of the park. So we have, that's the West Grove. So we have the West Grove in the back by Greg Field. We have the West Grove. And then we have the residentials on Peg Milchion's house and your neighbor's house. So the first part, we're partitioning it off in little pieces so that we can make it, you know, economically feasible. You know, by the time we cut the trees, you know, put in some, you know, mulch or something, hopefully we'll be able to start replanting. Concentrate on the buffer. If we can do a buffer, throw in a couple of trees to start reforestation and a plan, that's, you know, that's the ultimate goal. So if I have any questions, if you have any questions, I hope I can answer them. If
So you
not-
mentioned that you were gonna come back to us with a plan for the reforestation, so that would include like the cost of the trees that we need to put into the buffer?
Oh, absolutely.
And is the buffer, I'm not seeing this yet, but you plan to put a buffer all the way around the park at first, or is that what you're talking about? Just starting in one section and then moving out from there to the rest of it?
I think that, Joe, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but the back of the park alone, just the back alone, the apartments, is 650 feet along the back. You know, that's behind the Little League fields.
There's a
Here's-
lot of trees.
Well, it's a lot of trees. There is some existing buffer there. And let's face it, the back is the apartment parking lot,
Yeah.
where we do have some residential homes that are much more highly impacted with
Yeah, the ones to the west.
Yes, to
and
the west.
Even the ones to the,
edge,
to the south.
to the,
Like in front, like there's no buffer between like the basketball court and those.
oh, and
Yeah,
the
and
Chappelle's.
tennis courts.
They, you know, so far, they're not asking for a big buffer to be put there. So I think you gotta kind of break it up
Because they were
into,
here when we were discussing the plans for the park, complaining about the light pollution from some of the later games when the baseball lights were on. So that's what I just was asking about.
yeah, well, eventually, we'd like to do, you know, kind of the whole park.
Yeah,
Like, really make the park magnificent, but I think that's to be realistic and the kind of money that we can have. I think you're talking a 10-year plan to be solid. I don't think we can say, oh, get it done by next summer, I'll have it all done, don't worry. And it only costs $6,000. I think we just need to just go slow and steady and do, you know, put out, do the most important things first. And, you know, but I think that the more people that weigh in on it, like when you were sitting in the audience, oh, wow, great idea, you know, the more people get involved. The plan, basically what they're designing or giving us ideas and prices on are all native species. Native species that require minimum care, minimum maintenance, no, you know, right now over there we have some real bad carpenter ant problems in some of the cedars. They're not, nobody's saying that, you know, like cedars are bad. It's just that we need a plan. So that even if every year we take another piece and do it, we also do maintenance and we, you know, we bring in, you know, poison ivy control and, you know, weed control, invasive species control, so that we don't bite off more than we can chew. But at the end of 10 years, we start the back again and go all through it again, you know?
Yeah, I think you've done a lot of work, and it's all great. Is this like the entire plan?
No, I think you're looking at the specs for tree removal.
Yeah, because this was just on the dais when I got here, so I didn't get a chance to read it.
Right.
This is only tree removal.
So that's tree removal, right, that the borough put out the RFP to remove the dead, dying, and diseased
The
trees.
ones that have to go. And what was the,
Exactly.
what was the price tag on that?
I don't know, it's in the packet tonight. What is that, that resolution?
It's 67,500, I believe, is the.
And what do we have in the open space fund?
Well, the open space fund in the current year budget, we had allocated approximately $50,000 for maintenance, including tree removal. As you will recall, we had a like amount last year, and the work that we did in Fletcher came in at a much better price, and so we have funds left over from that as well.
So that should cover
It should.
the tree, the necessary tree removal.
That's correct.
All right, good.
And the well, and the poison ivy, and that, no, and that's, my hopes are that we can this year.
So I'm
Excuse me.
absolutely, right, I understand that. And then with the overall plan, like the 10-year plan, do you have a vision for that plan, or something together?
No, not yet. And I think that a part of the problem with it is that it took me a while to even get somebody who's willing to help us come up with a plan, who is the landscape architect,
All right.
who's a licensed landscape, who will do it for us without charging us up front.
No,
You know what I'm
understand
saying?
that. So really, we're really just looking at is just the tree removal at this point.
Right, tree removal is first, and then we should do the well.
And if you had told,
Right.
and if you had told me that you had a 10-year plan and it was gonna cost this much, I would have been stunned, because I know you're awesome, but I would,
Well, I wish I knew.
but just as a council person, to me, quality of life in town is very important. I happen to, enjoy wildlife. I definitely want you to take me to see the owl, because I'd love to do that, if you don't mind. But I also don't want to impact the taxpayer. So we have money coming in the open space fund, which I'm sure you're aware of. I certainly, in any given year, don't want to go over that and then have to go to the taxpayer and say, oh, we need more money. So,
Totally
so I want
agree.
to make sure that we don't do that, and it sounds like we're not going to do that.
Right. Well, do you know above this, Jay, where do we stand with money in the open space fund? Above, if we pay for the trees, or you pay for the trees, but after the trees, how much is left there? And look at, I would love to be able to say, let's just plant first, but we can't plant without water. So we need the water. We should eradicate the poison ivy. And as long as we can plant by next spring, I think Peg will be happy.
But if I'm not mistaken, I think that's all in here. The well and stuff, do we have that in tonight?
The well is just really in the discussion stages. We have just received a single quote for that. But to answer your question, the Open Space Trust reserve funds, when you take out the $100,000 that was authorized last year for the field improvements next door here, there's still in excess of $200,000 in the open space fund that is not identified or reserved for any specific purpose.
Right.
Overall, the open space fund is reserved for open space and recreation improvements, maintenance, acquisition, development.
Does that include the community service, the community center as well?
It does not. We have not specifically addressed the community center in terms of what we expect to be a portion of the improvements there that will not be covered by the $156,000 CDBG.
Right. So there's a chance that the more money will come out of the open space fund.
That's correct.
But what I wanted to say was I think this is a very worthy project, and I just wanted, as we go forward, I just don't want to do the point where we have to go back to the taxpayer and ask for more money. So that's my concern, but it's been satisfied tonight, so thank you.
And again, just to remind the council, I know it's been at least a month or so since we've dealt with budget specifically, but annually the Open Space Trust receives the result, or 1 cent tax levy,
Right.
which is approximately $115,000 in the current environment. And for a number of years moving forward, we reserved about $40,000 to $50,000 of that to pay down the debt that was incurred with the acquisition of the Fletcher property, and the remaining $50,000 to $60,000 is what has been identified for at least the last 3 years for ongoing maintenance and improvement costs.
So that money for the trees is beyond that, aside from that, correct? Like even if this year we knew we could pay for the well and the poison ivy going forward after the trees, and we can start working on the buffer. There's still quite a bit of money there. You said.
Yeah, my suspicion is that we're not going to go over budget in any given year. I think this is a worthwhile project.
You just do what you can budget for each year because you know what you're going to have.
Right.
That's right. And we also
That's how it works.
we're anticipating, as we did last year and in this year's budget, that there are what I would call relatively small costs. We have identified at least a conceptual plan for an improved parking area at Fletcher. We know that probably $3,000 to $5,000 for benches and some amenities there. So those are in the works and have been identified. And again, those funds are expected to come out of the current year or subsequent year annual budget.
I think it's a worthwhile project and it's well thought out. I really appreciate your efforts. It's been fantastic.
Well, thank you. It's the commission, the Environmental Commission has been working really hard, and look, I really think that everybody here, you grow up here or your kids go there, and everybody learns to love that park. And I think that altogether, like I said, if I could do it all in a day, Tom, but it's just not realistic. It's like
given the fact that we can budget and we're doing high priority stuff first, we're not going to go over our annual. To me, the annual budget is that open space fund.
Right.
So
and we will come to you with prices as they come. can we do this, what do you think of that? You know, because the more you know, and the more people get excited about it, the more people are apt to use it and protect our parks,
The
you know?
quality of life, everything else is
Quality
great.
of life, exactly.
That's great.
It'll be nice to have poison ivy done, so every time my 6-year-old runs away from me, I don't have to panic.
You don't have to put a rope on them and lasso them in so you don't have to go get them.
My 2 boys are worse than cats with things that come into my house they find outside, which I love that they love nature, and my youngest is obsessed with owls, so if we
Oh,
could
so
find
you
those
come over.
owls, he would absolutely love it.
Let's schedule.
But I've never had poison ivy in my life, never in my life, you know, tromping through wherever, and it's bad, it's really bad, you know, I don't think it's, that's,
You did a great job.
I'm sure Peg Mention would give up a couple of trees right now for that. No, I'm only teasing
I
you,
bought
Peg.
my trees, I bought 30 trees.
I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you, Peg.
Do you, with your list you have there, do you have a rough estimate for that little corner you're looking to do on the northwest corner?
You know, I don't, but I should have it within
I
the
was just
next
curious
couple,
with count of trees, you had
next
said
couple of
3
days.
for 500, it just seems like that can add up real quick.
Oh, well, we're not going with the 3 for 500, because like Kevin said, it's a lot cheaper to buy them
So it
outright.
is an insane price.
Exactly, because I know that, like, we were talking about heritage birch with the evergreens and some hollies, the American hollies, and the price on the American birch, it's like $80. It's
Oh, okay.
so much.
I think it's a brilliant idea, phase it out over 10 years, and do a little bit each year off what we have coming up in the open space, I think it's perfect.
You get more bark for your buck.
Oh, he's so funny.
like
You got
that.
that in the
That's good,
minutes?
Tom.
You wait, do you have that? We got that, we're gonna get that in the minutes.
I think one of the most important things, though, is what Nancy is bringing up about this poison ivy, because I've had several people tell me that it is so rampant over there, and the parents who have kids in, or did have, when Little League was in session, I guess maybe it's finished for the year, I'm not sure, but who just play in the park. The poison ivy, they're getting it on a regular daily basis, and I really think that when we remove the trees, it would be advantageous to get these people in there to start treating for the poison ivy right away. Yes, we want the well, but I'd like to see that poison ivy go, or at least some movement towards that effect, so that the parents understand how concerned we are about ridding the poison ivy in that whole entire area, you know?
Yeah, and I think we'll have a better idea, because you said the scope of the timeline would be August through September, right? A 30-day project. So even at the end of that 30 days, you know, when the project is finished, to say, okay, this is what's left, you know, what do we need to do?
My memory's a little fuzzy, but I think the discussion of the well came after we replant and we build that buffer, making sure we can irrigate it, so what we plant and invest in doesn't die out on us because it's not watered properly. So I think the poison ivy would definitely come before the well, because the well is part of the replanting, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, okay.
And I think we have plenty of time on that. We can plant up until, you know, into November, December, and we're okay, you know.
Fantastic.
Great job.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your time, and please don't ever hesitate to call anybody on the commission.
We'll be happy to give you tours, owls.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Oh, I just have one question. It's about poison ivy. Does it grow in the winter? I'm not sure. It does stay around for the winter.
Dormant, but it's there.
But the vines are there, the leaves that have the oil or not.
I was just curious.
Well, we can also, you know, like, I would, Mike, he's, like he said, he's from Cedar, he will be happy to come in and talk to you. He does a lot of eradication for municipalities because of public properties, so he'll come in. But I'm thinking, I mean, the perfect time to get him in there is, like he said, after we do the tree removal, we see what's left, then we can say, I mean, look, if there was no poison ivy left, we would go, we don't need you. But you know.
I think it's good before the end.
There's just so much of it, you know. So, as far as I know, though, he did tell me that poison ivy is one of the ivies that is native. So, which is why it's harder to kill. So, but he knows his stuff. I mean, he really does know. If you ask him a question, he's got it all down to a science. You know.
Well, I'm concerned too, when you said that you got into it over at Fletcher, just walking on the grass.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the Little League fields themselves have any of that in there.
I would think not, because it's been so tendered for so long.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably never hasn't had poison ivy for so long. I mean, those, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we hear about it a bit.
Well, I would think so, yeah. But I say, I know a lot of parents are complaining that their kids are getting it on a regular basis.
But right next to that front field, that's loaded with poison ivy.
Yes.
That-
Yeah.
In
I
East
see
Grove.
kids in there playing
Right.
Yeah,
with the dead trees and what have you.
yeah, it's a problem.
That's gotta be cleaned out.
Well, so next month, right, we move forward, then we see how it goes, and I'll be back and hopefully have some drawings, and we could bring in will people, and, we'll see how the tree removal goes and go from there, but thank you again.
That would be good.
That'd be good. Next item will be scheduled public hearing. This would be for the ordinance 2015-06, ordinance for the fire company equipment, the vehicle purchase, and also the quiet site. So if you have anyone in the public like to stand and speak on the ordinance, just step forward, give your name. You may speak for or against. Seeing no hands, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Close it.
Second.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we can move forward to adopt ordinance 2015. I believe we have that.
Onward.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Tom. We need a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 2015-106.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Excuse me, do you have any questions?
That's actually just 06 according to what I'm looking at.
06.
2015-06.
2015-06.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, just, it mentions in the ordinance that we're using this cooperative purchasing agreement.
Yes.
I mean, have we used that before?
Okay, I don't believe we have.
Yeah, we may be getting slightly ahead of ourselves. This is the funding mechanism to recognize the donation, but I can certainly address your question regarding the resolution.
Yeah. Okay.
We have not used this particular cooperative purchasing agency. We have used others. Typically, we would use the New Jersey state cooperative pricing arrangement. We have also used in the past here the New Jersey Recreation Facilities Cooperative. This one is, as you can see, it's recognized as a national cooperative purchasing arrangement. They primarily are involved in emergency vehicles. It is out of Texas. I had a chance to check. There are approximately 200 New Jersey municipalities that are currently members in this co-op purchasing program.
Okay. And then, I mean, it lists the purchase quote amount of $48,000, which doesn't seem...
You had said that was cheaper than our current state contract, right?
That's correct.
So it's cheaper to go through this program than to buy it through our own state contract at this time?
Sounds like a...
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I'd like to hear.
This came to the attention of the fire department as a result of the Wall Township Fire Districts utilize it and have recently purchased the same or very similar equipment.
Good job, Jim.
Anything else? Roll call, Judy?
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
No?
Mr. Morvat?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. On this point of the meeting, we have the public comment section where you may speak on any agenda, any agenda item you'd like to step forward, give your name and address, and you may comment on the agenda items. Seeing no hands, need a motion to close the public comment?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have the mayor and council reports at this time. Let's see, we haven't heard from Mr. Campion in a while. I'm like kidding, Chris. You have anything to say?
I have nothing now. I know that everything's been running well, and I know that there have been some issues that have been taken care of. I know that our well has been sealed and the building was taken down today, right?
The demolition is complete. There were going to solicit bids to close the well. We did a portion of the demolition that obtained cheaper well closing costs, so that's why.
Perfect. Great. Thanks, sir.
And I believe you're on vacation, correct, Chris?
Yes, I was.
Nice. And I hope you enjoyed it.
It was my 10-year anniversary, so I took my wife to Italy. It
Oh,
was fantastic.
Congratulations. Mr. Timken?
None at this time.
Mr. Horvath?
Nothing to report there.
Thank you. Mrs. King?
I have two things. First of all, I just want to say a thank you to Joe May, because he has worked very, very diligently on getting our new borough sign, which he told me tonight will be installed tomorrow. It arrived today, and it will be installed tomorrow in the front of Borough Hall. So I think that that's absolutely great, because the townspeople have missed their sign, so we're going to have that up there. Secondly, I want to make mention that Night Out Against Crime is going to be August the 4th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Seeger Army Camp. And it's usually a very, very nice event, and they usually have refreshments. And of course, this year they're bringing back the antique car show. Last year there was quite a few participants in that, so if you're interested in antique cars, which I know Mr. American is, because I've seen. I have some. And you have some.
There's one parked out front.
It's a very, very nice evening, and it's for a very good cause. And then thirdly, I just want to make mention that it is the summertime, and there is all kinds of different things that go on. People parking where they shouldn't park, people blowing stuff out into the roadways. Whatever you see that you feel is not appropriate, please report it, whether it's questionable or not. If you think it's not something that should be done, make sure that you report it. Call our police department, and they certainly will be happy to send somebody out. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Shul?
I'd like to comment that all the storm sewers have been cleaned out, and hopefully it'll alleviate a little flooding that we've had. I'd also like to comment that the 100% inspections that are going on, they've been going through my area now. It took them all 10 minutes to go through my house. It's done, and they're working on District 4 right now.
Is that for the assessments?
Yes, for the assessment.
So you think that's about an average time?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Okay.
Did they call you up to schedule it, or did they just knock on the door?
Knock on the door.
We will have a sticker on the door if they
Yes, if you don't answer, they'll put a sticker on the door, and if you're there alone and your wife doesn't want to let them in, they'll reschedule and come back when you're there.
And just if I may clarify, those properties that were subject to the inspections were notified ahead of time, indicating that the inspection people would be out doing the inspections within, I believe the notice indicated within 2 to 3 weeks. And so that's what I'll call the first round of inspections. And for those that are either unavailable, unwilling to let them in, that's the follow-up where you can individually request and schedule an inspection.
And he does carry a badge, so you can identify him when he comes.
Thank you. Mr. O'Brien?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. We had a couple reports from the court report, and the other was a report from Mr. Delaney about the memo on the Ocean Road. Everyone have a chance to look at that?
Yeah.
Jay, you want to speak on that?
Well, just because, a quick question. Just because they don't recommend before we stop doesn't mean we can't proceed with the lines, right?
Correct.
Fine, that's all I wanted to know.
Thank you.
I looked into it, as it says in the memo, John Field and Water will stop.
Good, well, thank you for looking into it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Easy, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll run through the resolutions. First on the agenda would be R 2015-129. This is the contract for the tree removal in the amount of $67,500. And we need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any questions?
Mayor, if I may, just
Yes, go
to
ahead,
clarify, I know this item had been listed previously for the council's consideration at a prior meeting.
Yes.
Included with the resolution is the bid summary, the tabulation. This bid included not only the work in what is referred to as Section A, which is the Allaire Road Park. Section B was the area along the right-of-way here adjacent to the railroad and Passaic Avenue. We are not awarding that. It was a determination based on budget and the relative cost of this, that it was not practical to have this work included. It was structured as an alternate in the bid. That work here will be done, but it will not be done by this contractor. And in fact, Public Works will proceed with that work based on the level of involvement.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks.
Okay. Do we have a motion in a second?
Yes,
we do.
I'll make that
No,
motion.
we haven't.
We haven't.
Any
Let's do
questions?
roll call. Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borba?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2015-134, approving ABC permit.
For the food, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borba?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2015-135, approving the outdoor music permit.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borba?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2015-136, approving the payments for the July 22nd, 2015 bills.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borba?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2015-137, authorizing,
This one?
yes, authorizing the 2015 Chevy Tahoe. Need a motion and a second?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
So this is actually spending the money now.
Yes.
I think this is authorizing the execution of the purchase agreement, right?
As well as the
Okay.
purchase itself.
Okay, so it's all-
So the first one was giving the money to the fire department basically, and this is authorizing them to spend it.
Close enough. They actually gave
The
us.
first one also included the whistle as well.
Yeah, the
Okay.
whistle, too.
We got it.
The quiet whistle.
Right. Right.
And the removal of milk ones.
Yes.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
No.
Mr. Borba?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We've reached the point of meeting where the public may speak on any item they'd like to. Step forward, give your name and address.
Hi, John Benjamin, 564 Atlantic Avenue. I just have a question for you guys. I was reading an article in the Co-Star having to do, this has to do with the Board of Education, actually. The Manasquan School District Board of Ed met with our Board of Ed on Monday night to talk about their construction referendum, which is going to take place on September the 29th, apparently in Manasquan. And it's for their $24.4 million ballot proposal to fix up their school and their playing fields and other things that they want to do there. It says in the Co-Star, if the referendum passes for Spring Lake Heights, an interest-only payment option over 20 years would be a total debt service of $895,000. If it's 25 years, it will be $1,100,000, and if it's 30 years, it's $1,400,000. The current estimate for the local tax increase is between $242 and $335 per year per household, based on an average assessed value of $488,000 per house in Spring Lake Heights. If the referendum passes, the sending districts would be required to pay 70% of the interest for the project, while Manasquan would pay 30%. of the interest on top of the principal. The breakdown of the interest is based on the percentage of the high school population, which with 70% of the students coming from the sending districts. So my question is, if there's going to be a referendum that might result in us having to pay between $242 and $335 more a year, do the people of Spring Lake Heights get to vote in this referendum?
No, the state Department of Education structures that. And,
So Manasquan?
yeah, because Manasquan is going to pay almost all the principal with some of the interest. The referendums are local to the school district, and so that because we have an agreement with them where we pay tuition, so to speak, no, we don't get to vote in that.
So in effect, they're raising the
tuition payment, basically.
If that passes in Manasquan, it's a tuition increase.
Okay.
I'm not saying.
But we don't have any input into that.
So we have no input. So, but don't the sending districts get to say whether they agree with this or not, or they're just stuck with it?
According to the New Jersey State.
According to New Jersey State law, no.
Oh, I'm actually not familiar with the regulations you're referencing. I haven't looked into that in the past. It sounds reasonable. Mr. Tinkin certainly has a lot of knowledge in this area, so I assume he's correct on that issue.
Jim, you have anything?
I have one question for Chris.
Chris Tinkin?
Yes.
I need an answer.
Let's see what the question.
This is for the grade school too. I'm understanding that we're required for any of the upgrade to the high school, that part we pay on.
Yeah, there's a formula that the state DOE uses to figure out what you're going to pay. Because we only attend high school, that's probably why we're only on the hook for some of the interest.
Yeah.
And not the principal and things like that.
On the
Because we don't send to their elementary school. If we sent to their elementary school, we'd be on the hook for a lot more.
So we will not get to decide whether this passes or not.
You will
But
not.
we get hooked into paying the money if it does. So that's sort of like taxation without representation.
Well, no, technically the state will tell you it's not because we have a seat on their board. It's only one seat, so you're obviously outvoted, if you have something to say, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Anyone else like to speak? See no hand, need a motion to close the vote?
I'd like to ask Jay one question. The used equipment that we got in the yard,
Yes.
when are we going to get rid of it?
So, I won't guarantee you, you had raised a question and a suggestion regarding the utilization of a different outfit. We're in the process of reviewing it.
Because I'd like to see it gone, so we can use the money for other things.
You won't be able to use the money until next year anyway, but.
No, this year, definitely. Thank you.
Motion to close the public comment?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Before we adjourn, anyone else have a comment?
I have one question for Joe and Jay. We're working with our energy audit application. It's going on almost 9 months now.
They're submitted, actually contacted directly solar today.
Oh, they're submitted. Wonderful. That's a wonderful update. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. The town's looking great. Thanks to the guys, and thanks, Jay. They're working hard, very hard.
Anything else? Your motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.